Archaeological Day 2, and today I'm at the legendary Celtic settlement of Pirene. Stay tuned. Okay, to be honest, I first need a coffee, because no coffee, no science. So I'm standing here just outside of the Celtic city. Here are some things to mention before we enter the town. In the background we see two hills. I hope you see them. The two hills. They are tumulus graves, just as that one I showed you the last time, from the local elite families. Here underneath me there used to be some farmsteads, some bigger farmsteads just outside of the city rampart. And then the city itself is structured into two parts. One lower city, where you had to enter here from the shallow slope, and you had to go here, go across the rampart and through the city gate, which I want to show you. Because as you will see in many episodes, I'm particularly interested in fortifications of any kind. So let's take a look here. So what we already see is a reconstruction of the gate. Why gates are so important, I will explain at the other gate on the other side. But this is the main gate. Looks like one house built out of the same material as the wall. Prairie stones on the bottom as the fundamentation, and then mud bricks on top. But more on that topic later. Let's cross the rampart here. So if an attacker or a visitor of the city crossed this rampart somehow, he entered into this gate, which is here represented with the fundamentations still on the side here. So what we have here is a construction of a city gate, which is known from the Italic Peninsula very well, and we will see more of them, but in Italy and not northern of the Alps. We call this a chamber gate, because any visitor or even attacker had to go through this chamber, which I demonstrate now. To enter the city. Here you see parts of the lower city now. Okay, this chamber here was blocked. It was blocked here by a gate, and it was blocked here by a gate. So why that? And why chamber gate? Okay, we have seen we have one chamber here, but an attacker came into here and was blocked by the gate and was already inside the structure of the gate. So he could be shot from above from the defenders. And even if he managed to enter and to destroy this gate, he just entered into this chamber hall here and was trapped again and could be shot from all sides. So far, and let's go into the city now. There's only one Celtic city which is mentioned in the Greek ancient literary sources, and this is Pyrene or Pyrene. And since I'm here on one of the biggest and best known Celtic so-called hill forts, it is actually believed that this might be this legendary Pyrene of which Herodot tells us. So this city here, or the settlement, is fortified highly, and we are here just on a headland above the Danube River, the young Danube River. If you remember yesterday I told you about the Brigach River, which runs through Villingen. This is one of the sources of the young Danube here, which is then going far until the Black Sea. So we will see this river many times at our journey still. But here we are on a Celtic settlement which was already inhabited in the 16th century before Christ, so 3,600 years ago. At that time the settlement was probably a bit smaller, but already they used this topographical situation of this natural hill right above this plateau here of the Danube River, and built like some sort of a wooden palisade here to defend themselves. This palisade is then reconstructed here, and it's quite interesting how they build it, because they put like several wooden stacks and stack them on top of each other to build like different chambers, which they then filled up with rubble stone and earth. But the big city, which is like mentioned by Herodot, is of this huge big mud brick wall. This is quite particular in this region because it's very singular, northern of the Alps. We find similar things in northern Italy, on the southern parts of the Alps, but not here. So obviously they took this technical knowledge and how to construct such a big wall from the south. And this is constructed by a fundamentation of bigger quarry stones, and then they just put like mud bricks on top of it. And they are not burned, they're just air dried. This means they are very sensible to any kind of erosion, like rain and wind. So what they had to do is they had to put burnt lime on top of it to cover the front and back sides, or any supervision which is like open to the environment. This means that the entire fortification was clear white, which is kind of beautiful. And the nice thing here at the place at Heuneburg is that they reconstructed part of stretches of the wall. So we're gonna have a look, but more on the history of the site, because actually there was a big fire here destroying the entire village. So we have like three main phases, and they are here reconstructed following the three phases of this wall, because it's the best known part of the settlement. So the first phase is this wooden palisade, which I mentioned, from the 16th century until the 13th century before Christ. Then we have like an abandonment of the town here. We don't know what happened in the next 500 years or so, until at around 620 BC. So right about the time when they also built the tumulus tomb of the Celtic chieftain. At that time they built this mud brick wall with Greek sophistication of fortification techniques, until it burned down in around 530 to 460 BC, and they built a new wall, and they gave up this nice architecture, and they built again like a wooden palisade, which is though all again built in these chambers filled up with rubble stone and earth. But then the facade was also like fortified by quarry stones put in front of it. These three phases are also be seen in the inside of the fortification, because there have been a lot of excavation work done in the past 50-60 years. And indeed, in the face of this Greek style city wall, we have a very dense population here, very dense settlement, and it was full of these houses. Of course, this is the chieftain house, or it's the biggest one which they reconstructed, but smaller houses were stacked to each other here, like in a real city. But first of all, let's go to the reconstructed stretch of the wall and have a look at the ditches here. So we are now standing right underneath and outside of the city fortification. Right down here we see the young Danube river here, still a small river with clear water, by the way. This will change, right? And what we see now is exactly what I explained, is this mud brick wall with the fundamentation here of quarry stones, so to give the entire structure some stability. And then inside here there are these unburned mud bricks building up the wall. It's really nice because it's a really clear surface which they then covered with this burnt lime. It's a really nice structure, and here, I don't know if you can see that, but it goes probably down 20 meters or so. So it's quite impressive here. So I'm walking now here along the parapet where the Celtic soldiers were standing, looking down here at the Danube and at the entire area, strategically positioned here with a lots of view in its hinterland. And the wall was probably around 5 to 6 meters height, so it made quite an impression for everyone who tried to enter the city, either for trading or either, of course, to attack it. So it had many purposes, not only defending the city, but also structuring the city, since this is the outskirt of it and the limit, and to represent the power of the local lord and the power of the local population. And then third, also, of course, to defend the settlement. And here inside, what we can see here is they also reconstructed like some parts of the artisan quarter of the settlement. So here they worked with iron and with fire and all this kind of stuff. And this is why they put it on the outside of the settlement, but still inside, so that they don't have to live with all those smells that the artisans produced here. The wooden houses with internal structures. The big one of the law was like up to 8 meters high, and those ones here up to 6 meters high. They have internal structures, as I will show you later on. And as we are looking here at the Danube, I also want to mention how the trade routes were at that time, around in the 7th and 6th century BC here in the Celtic area. The Danube obviously follows the entire route under the Black Sea and connects all those parts also with this region. So there was for sure some trade along the river, even if it's not usable by ship here because it's still too shallow. But anyways, there were many trade connections also to the south, as we mentioned, and through northern Italy the entire Mediterranean world opened to this place. So as we can see here, we have some imports of Greek pottery here. It's like one crater where the Greek mixed their wine with water for their banquets. And this is found here and shows the connection to the ancient world, which I will show you in the later episodes. Already in the 6th century though. Okay, here we see the wooden gate at the angle from the inside. And here, right in this angle of the city, they reconstructed the finds they made here, and they represented the quarter of all the craftsmen here. So let's have a look. So we're here in one of those buildings in the artisan quarter, and obviously this here has a didactical purpose, so it's not the clear reconstruction of how it was, but nonetheless we see some interesting things because the reconstructions here are really nice. What they actually found during excavation were just like the marks of wooden slabs in the floor, and they reconstruct this nice wooden structures with antique techniques, so they were not using any metal in the construction itself, but just wood only in the roof. And what they reconstructed here is very nice to show you, because that's a potter wheel. Oh. They just put a chariot wheel here, and you can spin that. No, the potter had to spin that, and then he could form and create these pottery vessels. Sometimes he had like someone who helped him to spin, because as faster as you spin, as easier it gets to form like a really symmetrical vase. So we're entering the so-called house of the craftsman. So during excavation they found a lot of slag here, and this is why they reconstructed the house of a blacksmith here, working on very nice iron tools, but also ornaments and jewelry and stuff like that. So here we have a nice reconstruction of the smelting furnace used at that time. That was obviously not here in the craftsman's house, but that was already built where they got the iron out of the mountains where they mined it. And that is precisely in the Black Forest where we have been yesterday. So the Celtic lords there, which had their tumulus tomb there, they probably traded with here the Heuneburg, and they were smelting it in kind of furnaces like this. They were used only a single time, as we know from experimental archaeology, where all the iron was smelted, the entire thing was destroyed, and then put out the pure iron, let's say. Yeah, really nice. I think they also show here sometimes how the blacksmiths used to work. Very nice. So let's move on, because here they reconstructed one house used for dwelling, so a usual family household. And right already here we see the storage facility, so where they could put their food, their grain, and all those kind of things, and it's raised from the ground in order to keep it dry, and also in order to keep out mice and other animals. So let's enter this dwelling house. Let's see. Ah yeah, here they nicely reconstructed all those things they found in the excavation. Not only fragments of pottery, which are reconstructed here. It is, by the way, northern Italic pottery. So the nice things about these reconstructions are that you really can imagine how the city was built, and you can imagine how busy it was, animals running around, craftsmen working hardly, smoke is coming up, and so on. So really nice. Also for the people, you can see it's visited, it's also busy nowadays. I'm now standing just outside of the city again. I just want to quickly show you the two tumulus graves we find here. These are exactly built like the one in Villingen I showed you in the first episode. Much smaller though, and they have some particular features. Here are two, in Villingen we just had one, and actually all around the city there are many more, but those ones are just outside of the city, as you will see soon. And what we see here is also that they marked the limit of the artificial hill by a ring made out of rubble stones and prairie stones. What we do find sometimes, not here unfortunately, but in other tumulus we know, by, for example the famous one in Hirschlanden, that there were like stone figures, almost the height of a person, a bit lower, and these stone figures depicting mostly man. And that one in Hirschlanden is very particular because it seems like the Lord himself. We don't know it. Maybe they are shown like a gravestone, just to mark the grave, maybe to show some god or goddess or whatever, or even the man himself who was buried here. But anyways, let's climb up. Okay guys, I think that's it for today. See you next time. Bye.